So let's get started. So just a quick disclaimer. So the presentation and the information that we're going to review tonight is intended really for informational purposes only, and it is not legal advice. I want to make it clear that Eastern PA Trans Equity Project, even though we help dozens and dozens and dozens of people every year with their legal name changes in Pennsylvania, we are not attorneys. We are transgender people that help other transgender people. We've been very successful with our name change program. But if you have specific questions, especially around issues of minors or for cases where you might have been convicted of a crime in the past, we do recommend that you seek counsel from an attorney. We're going to speak a little bit more about that later. But as a reminder, this is an educational program. We are not offering legal advice during this call. So that being said, the other reminder is we are talking about Pennsylvania specifically. So if you live in California or you live in Montana, tonight's presentation, while it might be enlightening, is not necessarily going to be highly informative in terms of what you actually have to do in those situations. Again, like I said, let's try to hold our questions to the end. I have reserved time at the end for questions. So let's get going. So first off, let's talk about why you may want to change your name. And the real answer is that, you know, many transgender people, frankly, don't change their name. In fact, the great majority of transgender people don't change their name. They socially transition, but they manage to maintain their birth name and can go through life perfectly fine without it. But there are reasons why you may want to consider changing your name. And really it comes down to being outed and when you show your ID. So certainly in the state of Pennsylvania, if you want to go to the grocery store and buy a bottle of wine, they make you pull out your driver's license. If you want to buy a cell phone or buy a car and you're using credit to purchase those items, you have to show your ID when you're filling out the credit application. If you look young and you want to buy cold medicine in a drugstore or pick up a prescription, you're going to have to show your ID. Certainly the first time that you vote, you have to show your ID, going through airport security, riding on Amtrak, cashing a paycheck, applying for and certainly being hired for a job, you're going to have to show ID. Same thing for applying for an apartment. And certainly in any of your dealings with law enforcement, you know, traffic stops being the one that's most common. You hand over your ID and you're immediately outed, and often you feel stigmatized. You certainly can feel very nervous. And so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And we also know that you can be in physical danger. So imagine that you're in a bar and the bartender asks for your ID and you hand it over and it says Joe instead of Joanne, but you're presenting female. And the bartender says out loud, you know, this doesn't look like you. Well, now you're outed to everybody in that bar, and that can put you in physical danger. And we don't want that to happen. So it's really, you know, a good thing to be able to change your name if you think that you are going to transition full-time, certainly. And if you think you're going to be in situations where you're going to have to show ID. So we want to talk about both adults and minors. We're going to focus primarily on adults, but I want to just kind of quickly talk about minors very quickly. So in the state of Pennsylvania, if both parents, either biological parents or adoptive parents, if both parents consent to the change of name and the child was born in Pennsylvania, has a Pennsylvania birth certificate, it's actually quite easy to change a minor's name. All you have to do is fill out the back side of the birth certificate. There's a form there. You need to get it notarized, and then you're going to mail it off with a small fee to the Department of Vital Statistics. And at that point, your child's name has been changed. But it doesn't change Social Security or other forms of ID like a federal passport. There are other steps that you have to follow in order to change those documents. But in terms of getting the legal name change granted, it's actually quite simple in cases where both parents agree and the child was born in Pennsylvania. If both parents don't agree, or the child was born out of state, you need to follow essentially the same process as you would if you were changing your name as an adult. You're going to need to file a petition in the Court of Common Pleas in your county, and then you're going to need to follow all the appropriate procedures. The biggest difference being that often, in the case of minors, the records are sealed, where they are not sealed in the case of an adult in most cases. Generally speaking, if the child has been adopted, you're fostering, or certainly when parents don't agree, you may want to consider speaking with an attorney. If you are in Lehigh, Northampton, or Monroe County, I do want you to know that we have negotiated very, very favorable rates with attorneys in this local area here, and we can save, on the order of $1,000. So just something to keep in mind. So that's what we're going to talk about minors primarily tonight. We're going to really focus on adult name changes. Okay, so let's just talk about the law a little bit. So we're going to talk about 54 PA CSA 701. So that's the section of the Pennsylvania Code that speaks to changing names. And it's important to know that the Commonwealth, the state of Pennsylvania, is concerned about that an adult may want to change their name to either avoid credit problems, where maybe you've been foreclosed on your home and you owe money, or if you have a history of criminal acts, or if you want to use that new name to create additional criminal or fraudulent acts. So because of that, they've written the state code in certain ways to try to avoid these issues. They're not targeted specifically at transgender people. Everybody has to go through the same process. Anybody who's an adult has to file a petition in the Court of Common Pleas in their county in order to obtain a name change. In addition, state law requires that any adult is required to publicize the fact that they want to change their name in the local newspaper and typically in the local law journal, the county law journal. We're going to discuss publication in more detail later and ways that you may be able to avoid publication. But the law as is written does require publication. And that is to, frankly, because they are concerned about people who may have credit or criminal histories and they want to become aware of that. So we will talk a little bit more about publication in a little while. So people who are convicted of felonies can't change their name with if there's less than 2 years before their sentence ends. So if you are incarcerated, or you're on probation, or you're on parole, and you have less than 2 years prior to the end of your sentence, you cannot change your name. And if you've been convicted of certain felonies, so that's homicide, rape, arson, robbery, or aggravated assault, you can never get your name changed. Now, I should actually probably modify that. You never say never. I know people who have been convicted of felonies, who have gotten their name changed. They absolutely have to get an attorney involved. And usually there are cases where these felonies are way in the past. And this is where judges in Pennsylvania have some leeway in making decisions on who can and can't get their name changed. But generally speaking, if you've been convicted of axe murder, you are not going to be able to get your name changed. I do want to say that if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor, so for example, if you bounced a check and you were prosecuted for bouncing a check, or as a youth you did something inappropriate and you might have gotten convicted of a misdemeanor shouldn't prevent you from getting your name changed at all. So, a couple other things around the law. The state in the law has given each county pretty significant amount of autonomy with regard to the procedures that they want to follow and the processes. That includes how they do criminal background checks with fingerprinting. So that means getting your fingerprints manually done with ink or electronically. It also includes how they do financial background checks. And it also includes preference for style of court documents. The thing to remember most of all is that every county in the state of Pennsylvania, and this is unusual. In most states, it's a statewide process, but in Pennsylvania, every county does it a little bit differently. And so even when you're working with an organization like ours, where we help lots of people with their legal name changes and provide mentoring, we still always recommend that you check with your local courthouse staff at what's called the prothonotari's office to make sure that you are following their procedures. This is especially important right now during COVID, because a lot of courthouses have changed their procedures temporarily during the pandemic. This can include how they have how they accept petitions, how they accept payment, how they conduct hearings, and so on. Something that judges have a significant amount of discretion on is with regard to publication waivers. So you heard me mention earlier that the state requires that you publish your intent to change your name in local newspapers. In some counties, you can apply for a waiver of that, and we're going to discuss that in more detail a little bit, and it is almost always granted. In other counties, it is rarely granted. So it's important to understand that publication waiver is one of the places where individual judges, so you can have 6 judges in the same courthouse all working, and one of them will never grant waivers, one of them will always grant waivers, and the other ones are sort of in between. Montgomery County is an example of a county like that, where there's one judge who's a little problematic. Okay. So I mentioned the prothonotary. So the prothonotary is the officer and the office in the courthouse, often known as the clerk of courts, or the office is referred to as the clerk of courts. But the prothonotary's office, that is where all of the kind of the central repository for how all the local procedures are handled. They're the ones that are going to have your preferred documents and timing and processes. So we always recommend, even when you download your name change forms directly from our website, that you verify with the prothonotary for any changes to local procedures. Again, in particular, with regards to how COVID may have changed certain procedures in the courthouse. So always make sure that you give a call to the prothonotary's office when you're ready to change your name to say, hi, I am interested in getting a legal name change, and can you outline the process and the fees for me? And they'll walk you right through it. One of the things that many people don't fully realize is that name change is a very routine matter in the state of Pennsylvania, and in every courthouse across the state. Transgender people in general, but even transgender people, they get their names changed every day, and it can feel like a big deal for us. But for the people who work in the courthouse, it's just shuffling paper around. And so generally speaking, what our experience has been across the 10 counties in our service area and in other counties as well, where we've helped people, is that as long as you are polite and respectful of the people's time in the prothonotary, the clerk of court's office, and the other offices in the courthouse, they're going to be exactly the same way to you. So the process is at a glance, and we've you can see the flow charts on the right that go into more detail. We've provided those links. Again, they're in the chat where you can download these, and we're going to give you access to some other resources on our website later. But generally speaking, the process is about 6 steps. The first thing that happens is that you have to get fingerprinted. That's because the law requires that a criminal background check be done on everybody who's going to change their name. Again, the exception to that is minors born in the state of Pennsylvania. But if you're an adult, you're going to have to get fingerprinted. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to the courthouse, pick up a fingerprint card, and then you're going to take that generally to your local police station or the state police and get fingerprinted. Then you're going to complete your court documents. And so, for all of the counties in our service area, so that is Lehigh, Northampton, Berks, Bucks, Montgomery, Luzerne, Lackawanna, Carbon, Schuylkill, and Monroe. I think that's all 10 counties. We have all of those documents available for download off of our website. And we also have documents available for many other counties. If you don't see your county listed on our website, you can reach out to us through a contact form on the website, and we can provide you with generic forms. Then you're going to file your petition. You're going to fill out your documents. You're going to file your petition with the court. Then there's going to be the publication requirement that we mentioned, and there's a judgment search. The judgment search is where they're going to make sure that you don't have any huge outstanding financial judgments against you. A judgment is where somebody sued you and took you to court in order to get their money. Like a car loan or other things, that's not going to show up. This is for something more serious. Then you're going to attend your court hearing, and the court hearings are usually very quick and pro forma. And the judge is going to say, "Congratulations, you're now Corinne Goodwin." And then you're going to start the work of updating all of your documents. And again, we've provided a link to a spreadsheet called Name Change Tasks in the chat that's available for download that kind of hits most of the things that people have to change sort of in order of priority. Okay, so let's start off with fingerprinting. So most counties in the state require manual fingerprinting. So that's where you're going to go to the courthouse, usually to either the court administrator's office or the law library. But again, this can vary county to county. Call the prothonotari's office in advance and they will tell you exactly where to go. And you see where we have this red circle here? That's very important. So the reason why you want to pick up the fingerprint card from the courthouse is because that section of the fingerprint card is coded for your specific courthouse, which is where the state police, when they do the fingerprint check on you, the criminal background check, that tells them where to send the information. So it's important that you get the fingerprint card from your courthouse. Different counties require fingerprinting from different agencies. In most counties in Pennsylvania, they're fine with the state police or the sheriff's office or even the police where you reside doing it. In some counties, however, for example, if you were in Bucks County, you must get your fingerprints taken by the police in the town where you live. So again, this is an area where you want to check with your prothonotary to make sure that you're aware of whatever your county's local procedures are. Fingerprinting, there's going to be a small fee. It's usually anywhere between $5 and $15. And then what you're going to do is they're going to give you the fingerprint card back, and you're going to take it to the courthouse to submit your paperwork. One last thing around fingerprinting is that we do recommend that you call ahead, whether it's to the state police barracks, the sheriffs, or whoever, to find out and say, I need to get my fingerprints done for a background check. And they probably have specific days and hours where they do that. So you don't want to just show up. Again, especially during COVID, a lot of procedures have changed. So next step in the process, step 2, was to prepare your court documents. And that begins with what's called a cover sheet. And in most states in Pennsylvania, this is what a cover sheet is going to look like. And all you're going to do is fill out the top portion where it says county. You're going to insert your county name. And then in the places where it says plaintiff's name, that is going to be your name. And then you're going to, down here where it says other, you're just going to type in or write in the word name change. Everything else in this document, the people at the courthouse will complete with you. So it's actually pretty simple and easy to do. Next is the petition. So this is the document where you're actually asking the court to change your name. And it's going to contain the following statements in one form or another. Again, every county court has a little bit of a different preferred format. But basically what's going to say is that, you have the desire to change your name. So you can see here where it says petitioner blank, that's where you're going to put in your old name, request the court to change their name pursuant to the law for the following reasons and other statements here. You're going to put in your date of birth. You're going to say that you're over the age of 18. You're going to fill in all addresses that you've had for the prior 5 years. And then you're going to state the reason that you're changing your name. And the reason is that you're a person of transgender experience, and getting your name changed is going to allow you to have all of your identification align with your gender presentation. So you're going to fill out this petition. Again, your local courthouse may have a preferred version. We do have those preferred versions as of a few weeks ago, at least, available on our website for many counties in the state of Pennsylvania. If you print them versus typing them in, make sure that you print neatly, very neatly. And in all places where you're going to be putting in the name, so here, for example, it says in the matter of the petition of name change of, you're always going to use your old name, except where it specifically calls for your chosen or your new name. So where it says change the name here in item number 4, change name from old name to new name. Everywhere else, you're going to use your old name, and you're going to sign wherever it says petitioner using your old name. It's also very important that you use your full name. So first name, middle name, last name. If you have a junior, senior, or a first, second, third, all those things need to be included in the petition. Some counties require a verification. So all a verification is that you are swearing that the statements that you made in the petition are true. So, here it says that I blank, that's your old name, verify that the statements made in this petition are true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. And then you're going to sign it, again, sign with your old name. And then you're going to provide an order. So the order is supplied as a convenience to the judge. So essentially what it is you're just filling out some of the blanks on this in advance. So the judge just has to sign it and date it during the court hearing. And so again, you're going to fill in your old name and then change of name from old name to new name. And then where it says the dates and where it says judge down here, you're going to leave that blank because the judge will fill that out, or the clerk will fill that out on behalf of the judge. Once the hearing is over, we're just going to say that what will happen is that you will get this document back. You will get one official certified copy back after the name change is completed. But then you're going to want to purchase from your local courthouse, from the county clerk, 3 or 4 more official copies of the name change order, because you need them for changing your Social Security, your passport, and your birth certificate if you want to do those. And I should say that if you don't have a passport, we strongly, strongly recommend that you get one. It is absolutely the best identification that you have. And we don't recommend a passport card. We recommend a full passport. And we can talk a little bit more about that. Somebody here just asked a question. So under reason for name change, does there need to be a certain wording used? So the answer is no. The wording that we prefer is that the petitioner is transgender, and receiving a change of name will help them to align their identification to their gender presentation. Very simple. We actually have that language on our website as well. But no, there doesn't have to be anything very specific. The one guidance that we would recommend is that you don't get too wordy. Don't get too wordy. Keep it kind of short and sweet. It's important to clarify too that other than a criminal history or a very significant financial judgment that's against you, I mean, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is no reason why a judge would ever deny a name change. Matter of fact, state law says that unless it's for criminal significant judgment, or the name you want is something that would be offensive, like the N word, they cannot deny you your request to change your name. Question is, would a minor still need to have a court order to change their name on a social security or a passport? And the answer is no. What you do have to have is a letter from your child's physician stating that they have had appropriate medical treatment for transition. That treatment can look like anything from, a conversation to HRT to surgery. They don't have to specify what that is. But as long as you've got the new birth certificate back from the state that says what their new name is, and then the letter from the physician will help you do the gender change. Okay, so continuing on. Notice of publication. So when you download your name change packet, for example, from us, you're going to get this notice of publication. So again, state law requires that you publish your intent to change your name in 2 publications. And typically they are your closest local newspaper. These ads are super small. They're in the legal notices section. They are smaller than, a classified notice. They're very tiny. And in your county law journal, which is usually run by your local county bar association. I'll be perfectly frank with you. Very few people ever read these things. But we do recommend for transgender people that you submit a motion to waive publication. But again, the court has the right to deny that motion to waive. So if you have to publish, this document that you see here is an example of what the notice of publication might look like. Basically, it says that notice is given that Joe intends to change their name to Joanne, and in court on date September 15th at 10 o'clock in the morning in courtroom number 5. If anybody has a problem with it, please show up. And then, once that ad runs, it only has to run for 1 day. You're going to get proof of publication from the newspaper and the county law journal. They do this all the time. They know exactly what they need to provide you. So when you get your packet of documents, either from us or from your attorney or from the courthouse, the chances are that this notice of publication is going to be included in the documents. The other thing that if you download from us, and if you don't download from us, you can also get these from the courthouse, but is the motion to waive publication. And so what happens here is you're asking the court to waive publication, the requirement to publish your name in the paper, your intent to change your name. And it's very important that the request is always made on the basis of your personal or your family's safety. And for example, if you use the motion that comes from us, we include in exhibits to this document's actually about 10 pages long. It includes an academic paper that talks about violence against transgender people, and it also cites the law specifically where it states that if you're in fear for your personal safety, that the judge can waive publication. If you have examples of when you have had issues with violence or harassment. There is a place in our document where you can include those, and it's a good idea to include them. And if you know the dates or the specifics of the situation, it's really a good idea to include those. What will happen when you submit this motion to waive publication is that you're going to be required to appear before a judge. And the judge does have a great deal of personal discretion, but often the judge is going to say, so why are you concerned about your personal safety? And you're just going to say, because violence against transgender people is a significantly higher risk than it is for the general population. For example, right now, I think probably many of us on this call know that in the state of Pennsylvania this year, 3 people of transgender experience have lost their lives due to violence. And that, in general, it isn't just death that can happen. It's, a lot of other issues that can happen. So you want to make sure that you're making your case. The one thing that you don't want to do is ever say that you're going to save money. What this is for your personal safety. And what will happen is that the judge may issue the waiver, in which case, great, you don't have to publish, and you save probably about $250. Or they may say, no, you have to still publish, and it's within that judge's right to make you do that. Or sometimes you get a partial waiver, where they may make you, for example, publish in the law journal, which only attorneys see, and not in the local newspaper, which anybody who subscribes to the newspaper can see. So sometimes you get this partial waiver, which is better than nothing at all. So you're going to fill out all those documents, right? So mainly using your old name, signing your old name where it says petition, and then submitting to the court. Some counties now require that you submit all of their paperwork electronically, in which case, you're going to need to scan these documents. If you don't have a scanner or the ability to convert a Word or PDF document, you can do that at a local Staples, for example. But most courthouses will still take paper documents because they know that most people don't have access to electronic things, and it's kind of a one-time deal. Before you submit, you're going to want to call the prothonotari's office. This is, again, where the prothonotary is your best friend, and verify the amount of money that you're going to have to pay. So you're going to have to pay a fee for the petition and an additional fee for the motion to waive publication. Most courthouses only take cash, money order, or credit card. Some only take one of those, some take 2, some take all 3 modes of payment. I don't know of any courthouse that will take a personal check. So you want to verify ahead of time what the amount is and the mode of payment. So obviously, if they'll take cash, you can show up with cash. But if it's money order, you need to get that money order made out in advance for the exact amount. So that's why you need to know that number. And it varies courthouse to courthouse. After you submit to the prothonotary and the court administrator's office, you're going to be assigned a hearing date for your motion to waive publication. In some cases, it may be that very same day. They may actually say, well, we've got your motion. Let's walk back and see a judge right now. And that happens privately in the judge's chambers. Northampton County is a county that does that, for example. But in most cases, you're going to have to go to court and show up on a date of a hearing. And again, you're going to be sworn in, and you're going to be asked why you want to waive publication. And the answer is because you're concerned for your personal safety. You're also going to be assigned a final hearing date. So that's the hearing where you actually officially get your name change. If you're required, you need to publish in the newspapers, and that has to be done at least 30 days typically prior to your final hearing date. So if your hearing date is on June 1st, that means that you need to publish in the paper the last week of April, for example. And then the other thing that has to be done is a judgment search. Most courthouses, this happens actually in the courthouse. You're going to go to the Recorder of Deeds office, and you're going to go either the day of or the day before your final hearing, and you're going to tell them that you are getting a legal name change the next day or that day, and that you need a judgment search. They're going to charge you a fee. It's usually around $40. Again, you may have to pay in cash, credit card, or a money order. So make sure you know how much you have to pay in advance. And they're just going to give you a document that says that, you know, you don't have any judgments or you do have judgments. In some counties, though, they don't do it at the courthouse. So for example, in Monroe County, they require you to hire a title search firm. They're located all around the courthouse to do the judgment search for you. It unfortunately costs a little bit more money, like $100 versus $40. But again, this is where you want to make sure that you know what the process is in your local jurisdiction. So the date of your final hearing, you should have all of your paperwork. So copies of your petition, a copy of your motion to waive publication, and a copy of whatever the ruling was. So they will give you an order saying denied or approved. You need to have that proof of publication if you did have to publish. You need to have the proof of a judgment search, and you should have a photocopy of your fingerprint card. Bring all of that with you. Arrive to the courthouse early and arrived dressed for success. So what we say is dress as if you were going for a job interview. So, and you know, I'll clarify this is, you know, you can dress whatever way you want, but generally speaking, flip-flops, jeans, and shorts are frowned upon in a court of law. So, you know, try to dress appropriately. When you get to the courtroom, you're going to check in with the bailiff, and they're going to say, why are you here? And you're going to say, I'm here for my name change hearing. They're going to ask you what your name is. You're going to use your old name, unfortunately. Although many times they'll say, so I can refer to you as Mr., Ms., or Mrs. Smith, you know, whatever your last name is. They may allow you not to use your first name. You're going to wait around a little while, and then you're going to hear your name called. When they call your name, bring all of your paperwork up to the front of the courthouse in front of the judge. They're going to swear you in, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. The judge is going to ask, why are you here? And you're going to say, because I'm looking to get a legal name change. The judge is going to ask you why. You're going to say, because I'm a trans person of trans experience, and this is going to help me align my ID with my gender. And in most cases, the judge then goes, cool, no problem. They sign the order, and you are officially named what your new name is. Usually takes less than 15 minutes. What I should say though, is that the judge has the right to ask you questions. And for example, so they may say, so how long have you been in transition? And, you know, it really doesn't matter if it's 6 months or 6 years, but, you know, they have that right. They may ask, you know, are you on HRT? Are you taking hormones? Have you had surgeries? These questions can be wildly inappropriate, but it is the judge's right to ask them. And so while in a normal conversation with friends or relatives, we might react badly to that type of a question with the judge, just keep it short and sweet. And, you know, if they say, how long have you been, in transition? And you say 2 years. And they might say, and have you had any medical treatments? And you might say, yes, I am on hormone therapy. They might ask if you've seen a therapist, and you can say yes or no, no, or I used to, or whatever it is. Answer truthfully, but keep your answers short, sweet, and most of all, polite. When you get all done, the judge is going to say name change granted. And before you leave the judge's presence, you want to ask them, when can you get official copies of your order for name change? In most cases, you can get them that same afternoon. Sometimes you have to wait till the next day. And remember, one of them you get for free. You want to purchase another 3 or 4 from the clerk of courts. So congratulations, you now legally changed your name. And now the real work begins, because now you got to change your driver's license and your social security, your passport, your birth certificate, immigration documents if you're from outside the country, and everything else. So I want you to know that on our website, patransequity.org, also the National Center for Trans Equality has lots and lots of resources on how you can get all your IDs changed. I will tell you that the order that you see them here, driver's license, social security, then passport, then birth certificate, that's the order that we recommend that you get them done in. Usually you can get your driver's license done the afternoon that you get your order. Social security, you can do by mail or at an office, and you get your new card within a week. Passport takes about 60 days. And then once you got all those, then do your birth certificate. And the reason why we say that is because you need your birth certificate in order to get your passport as well as your social security done. Also, for any federal ID, as well as for your birth certificate, if it's in the state of Pennsylvania, you do have to have a letter from your physician saying that you've had appropriate treatment for transition. Most endocrinologists, general practitioners, gender clinics, they all know exactly what this letter needs to look like. We recommend that you give them a call as soon as you have your hearing date. Give them a call and say, hey, my hearing date is on June 1st and I need all my letters by then, and they'll fill them all out. If you need to provide your doctor with an example of one of those letters, when you download the instructions from our website, we actually have a template. And National Center for Trans Equality also has a template that you can provide your doc if they need it. I mentioned the checklist. So, phase 1 is just getting the legal part done. Phase 2 is the identification documents. Also, your work records, you want to get those done as quickly as possible. Email and your human resources, payroll, paperwork, things like that. Once you got that done, then you're going to start on all the other things. So like your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, if you have like a 401k, your personal email address, social media, car registration, car title, home title, your mortgage, all that stuff. And it can take a while. So in my case, I've had my legal name change now for the better part of 4 years. And every once in a while, I still find something where they have my old name. But I had all the important stuff done within, probably like 90 days of when I had my name change completed. Cost. So generally speaking, if you do the name change yourself, and as long as you haven't, got an issue with convictions or very major judgments against you, the cost without an attorney is somewhere between $300 and $600 if you represent yourself. Representing yourself is called pro se. So if you don't have to publish in the paper, it's going to be about $300. If you do have to publish in the paper, it's going to be closer to $600. If you hire an attorney, it's going to be $1,500 to $2,000. And you can see on the left of the screen here, in Lehigh County, you can see kind of what the costs are. So fingerprinting is about $25, your filing fee, is about 177. Your judgment search is 30. The motion to waive publication is $28. And then, it's 100 to publish in the Law Journal, 175 in the Morning Call, which is the local newspaper. So you can see where the costs kind of line up. Every county is a little bit different, but the costs do vary a little bit county to county. So there are some ways to save money. The first one is that you can file what's called in forma pauperis. So that's a legal term that means in the character or manner of a pauper. In other words, you're broke. So if you're unemployed, if you have no savings, where your expenses are the same, more or less the same as what your income is, you can file for in forma pauperis, and that waives the cost of the court fees. It doesn't waive the cost of fingerprinting. It doesn't waive the cost of judgment search or the cost of changing your IDs, but it'll save you, probably a couple $100. It's just important that you must prove need. So you're going to have to accompany your filing for in forma pauperis at the court with some financial statements. Other ways that you can save money is with pro bono legal representation. So in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh, which I just realized I misspelled, you can go to the TILDEF name change project, Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund. So they offer pro bono legal representation where they will go to court with you, file your paperwork for you and all that stuff on your behalf. It is needs-based. And they have limited amount of bandwidth, but they've helped a lot of people in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So that's, for example, why the services that we offer, we don't cover Philadelphia because there's already an organization that does Philly. Also, often your local LGBT center or a health clinic can often provide, kind of basic advice. For example, locally, our LGBTQ center has a monthly free legal clinic where you can meet with an attorney for 20 minutes and they'll sort of walk you through the process like I just did. And then there's also local legal aid services where you can apply to be represented by an attorney. Again, usually needs-based, and it's important to know that they have a limited amount of bandwidth. You can also go to your local bar association and send them an email and say you're looking for an attorney to represent you pro bono. But that doesn't always happen. And then there's also grant programs. So I will talk about ours first. So Eastern PA Trans Equity Project, we provide grants to help pay for the cost of legal name change, as well as one-on-one mentoring for 10 counties in Eastern Pennsylvania. We cover 30% of the state's population. So Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton, Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, Reading, Stroudsburg, all of Montgo, including Norristown, as well as Bucks County and Doylestown and the counties surrounding Philadelphia. You go to our website, you can download all of your legal name change paperwork and also apply for a grant. And we are usually able to help people. This year, we're on track to provide grants to over 100 people. If you're outside of our service area, you can also apply to Trans Lifeline microgrants. They're a national program. They give out about 40 grants a month. And 75% of those grants are reserved for people of color. But I know a number of people that have taken advantage of the Trans Lifeline microgrants as well. So you can go to our website, patransequity.org, all kinds of resources and information on legal name change there, whether you're in our service area or not. And I will say that we often assist people with their legal name changes, even if they're not in our direct service area. We can still provide some guidance. So before we do some Q&A and start putting your questions in the chat, please. Just another follow-up on a disclaimer. So again, we are not attorneys. We're trans people that help other trans people. We help a lot of them. But if you feel that you have a particular situation that we haven't addressed or that we're unable to address, we do recommend that you speak to an attorney. So with that, I'll stop sharing. I will show my beautiful face and I'll answer your questions. So, is this a time where you can change your middle name also? So yes, so if you're going to, so my old name was David Bradley Goodwin, and my chosen name is Corinne Dawn Goodwin, and I changed both my first and my middle name. You can also change your last name if you wish. So again, there's really no reason that a judge should ever deny you unless you were convicted of one of those felonies we talked about. So we recommend that you settle on that name ahead of time. And then there was a follow-up question on that. Is Lehigh County an area with problems with publication? So we've never lost a motion for waiving publication in Lehigh County. So I'll tell you that. There's always the chance that they may say no, but we've never had an issue in Lehigh County at all. So Lehigh is one of the good ones. And thank you, Kate, for being here. Appreciate the nice comment. And Northampton County. So Northampton County is another one that no real issues in terms of waivers of publications. They're one of the counties where they'll often take you right back to the judge the day that you submit your information on waiving your publication. And again, we've never lost one there. So we did have one delayed one time, but that was somebody who was born in Chile and they weren't a US citizen. But Northampton County is pretty easy. The next one is, do I have to change my name in the county in which I reside? The answer is yes, you do. And I see you live in Lebanon County. So Lebanon County, they're a little bit fussy on their paperwork. So you want to make sure that you're using all of the paperwork and following all the processes in Lebanon County right to the letter. So, but again, if you go in front of the judge and you say, that you're concerned about violence against your person, and it's, pretty easy to make that case nowadays, bring some newspaper clippings or internet clippings of, how trans people have been assaulted or killed. And you can make your case pretty easily, I think. And most cases, you can avoid publication. And in some cases, even if the publication is only a partial waiver, what you may want to speak to the judge about is it possible to just publish in the law journal versus in the actual newspaper? And often you can get that as a partial. And the other thing I will tell you is that, really the ads in the legal notices section in a newspaper literally are about 1 inch wide and about 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch tall. They're teeny tiny. And you really got to be wanting to look for them in order to read them. So I think you're pretty good. Somebody's asking about Westmoreland County. So Westmoreland, I'll be honest with you, I don't know off the top of my head what the situation is there. Again, the most important thing is call the Prothonotari's office, get the paperwork that they prefer, and then make sure you just follow everything perfectly, and you're probably going to be okay. Somebody asking, if the name changes for a minor and we want to petition for publication waiver, will the judges generally expect the minor to do all the talking? And the answer is no. They will defer to the parent in most cases. If the child is like 16, they may want to speak with the child, but if the kid is 10 or 12 or 13, in most cases they defer to the parent. And remember, if both parents feel comfortable with the name change, you don't need to go through the judge. You can just go straight to the birth certificate. Can you accompany someone to court? So generally speaking, the answer is yes, absolutely. Matter of fact, that's one of the things we try to do is we try to accompany as many of our clients to court as we can. Nowadays, with COVID, sometimes that's restricted. So many courts are doing their hearings via Zoom. And then others are only allowing the person who specifically has business in the courthouse, so that's the person whose name is being changed, to come in. So that'll vary courthouse to courthouse a little bit. But normally, yeah, no problem accompanies anybody. I've seen 10 people accompany people. Here's one. So what reasons would a minor decide to do a name change through the court route? I was under the impression that I needed to do the court route with my minor child. His healthcare told me that they would need to do both a birth certificate and the court documents to change his name in the medical system. That is a great question, which I am not. So I don't know what the particular medical record situation would be, but if you've changed, if your child is a minor and both parents agree to the name change, and you have a new birth certificate, that should be all that you need, I would think, to get the name change done in the medical system. It's frankly all you need for Social Security and a passport, so I don't know why you would need it any other way. But send us a contact form through our website. I would love to do a little research on that. Send us a contact form through our website, patransequity.org, and or info@patransequity.org. Let me know what healthcare system you're working with, and I would love to do a little research on that one. Here's another question. I stopped into my local courthouse in Cambrian County, asked for the paperwork and what the procedures were. No one in the office answered directly, but rather told me to Google it. So if you, again, email us at info@patransequity.org, we have generic paperwork for the state of Pennsylvania, and it sounds like that will work perfectly well for Cambrian County. Sounds like they're not real fussy. So we can absolutely help you with that. Next question, are there transgender help programs in Lebanon County to walk you through every step, including standing with you in court? So I would reach out to the LGBT Center of Central Pennsylvania, potentially. And you might also try your local legal aid society. Let me reassure you that the process feels very complicated. It's not as complicated as it seems. It's one of the reasons why we started doing what we do, is because, frankly, I hired an attorney to help me do my name change because it felt very confusing. And that's when I figured out what my attorney was doing and what we were paying him to do. That's when we decided to start this program, because there's no way that people should be getting paid that type of money for this type of work. And then question on, is a corrected birth certificate sufficient for a change in the Social Security card? The answer should be yes, absolutely. Yep. And then, by the way, so that's for a minor. If you're an adult, you still need to have the official court order. You need to have the official court order because you can't change your birth certificate until you have an official court order. And then a question on when you change the name and gender for a minor through birth certificate change form, do you need a letter from a healthcare provider about their transition? So to change their name on the birth certificate, the answer is no, you don't. But to change their name and gender marker on their Social Security card, you absolutely do need that healthcare certification. And that's the same for an adult. When you get your name change order from the court, you are officially, I was officially Corinne, but in order to get my documents changed with Social Security, my passport, birth certificate, I needed to have the medical letters. All right, again, that's for an adult. So I'm going to take a drink and we'll wait a second or two to see if there's any other questions. Talking for an hour and 5 minutes straight. A little dry. Okay, so it looks like everybody has gotten what they need. Again, if you go up to the top of the chat, you can download those job aids. which should be able to help you kind of generally speaking with the process. If you have questions about name change, info@patransequity.org, and we'll do our best to help you out. If you happen to live within our service area, Montgomery, Bucks, Berks, Lehigh, Northampton, Monroe, Luzerne, Lackawanna, Carbon, or Schuylkill counties. Again, you can go directly to our website and download all of your paperwork directly. And then you can also apply for a grant to help pay for it all. And we want to help. So with that, somebody asked a question here. What about a marriage certificate? Marriage certificate, really all you should need is the order from the court, the name change order from the court, and you should be good to go. Okay. All right, so with that one, we're going to sign off. I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thank you for coming out. We had a great crowd and some great questions. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.